Indiana Jones. It's a podcast about Indiana Jones. Every movie, 1 minute at a time. Indiana Jones Minute.
Welcome back to the Indiana Jones Minute, the podcast in which we celebrate and discuss the film Raiders of the Lost Ark 1 minute at a time. I'm Tom Taylor.
I'm Pete Mummert.
And I'm Jerry Porter.
And today we are discussing Minute 4, which begins with Indy still holding 2 pieces of a map and ends a minute later with Indy's assessment of a guy named Forrestal. Turns out he's good. Spoilers.
This minute obviously has like some of the juiciest Indiana Jones like little tidbits. I mean, there's the bullwhip, which, you know, the first time you see it, you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was watching it this time really carefully, being like, did I get what happened when I first saw this? Like, do I get that he took a whip off his hip and actually whipped the gun out of the guy's hand? And you actually do. It's actually pretty tightly done, but it's awesome.
Wow, it's incredible. And if you're a kid and you're watching, you're like, I'm not entirely sure what that is, but it works.
Yeah.
And those sounds are incredible. Like the whip sounds like a gun, and the gun sounds like a cannon.
Right. The gun sounds incredible even before he tries to fire it. He takes it out, and just the clicks of him cocking it are insane.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he's eating crackers in Indy's ear or something.
And I love how Indy just cocks his head like a Cocker Spaniel. Like he just a little tiny cock of the head, and you know, Barranca's dead.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering, like, what was Barranca doing? Like, was he going to steal? Was he like, oh, there's the map, and there's the other half of it, so now I'm going to steal it.
Yeah, by the way, I realized watching this minute that for the last, I'm not going to do the math in my head, but the last 100 years since this movie came out, I've been watching it with like my 10-year-old brain. And so I'm only now starting to understand things that happen in it. Because I think you're right. I think he's like, oh, Satipo gave him the other half of the map. So now we have both halves of the map. So we can get rid of this Jones Joker and go get the treasure ourselves. I think it's one of those deals.
See, I'm not sure about that.
Oh, okay.
Because
you're always a conspiracy guy.
I am a conspiracy guy. But I might be getting a little bit ahead of myself here. But I get the impression that Barranca and Satipo have been here before.
Interesting.
And we may find out soon that the entrance to what they're looking for is literally about 10 feet from where they're standing.
By the way, that blew my mind. I can't tell you how many times I've seen this movie, and this is the first time I've noticed that it's literally next to where they were standing.
he literally just turns around and,
Like, was Indy confirming that when he took the map out? Like, did he know where he was, or was he like, oh my gosh, it's right there? That's Andy.
It's right across the street.
Or is Indy just working several layers above all of us, and he's trying to sort of flush out Barranca's hand?
Oh, maybe.
Well, see, through your thing, then you're saying, like, so Satipo is kind of playing he's the dumb guy.
Yeah.
If it's a conspiracy, he's like, oh, the Jovitos are following us. And he's like, all right, look, you know, Indy's not around. You don't have to lie about that stuff right now.
Right.
So is it, I mean, that's the only thing. He's playing dumb really well.
Well, not maybe even if they're not working with the Jovitos. I mean, I'm getting ahead of myself slightly, but when he mentions Forrestal in less than a minute, Satipo seems to know who that is. Like the way he says, oh, friend of yours? It's not
really?
Like, oh, who's that? I mean, he sort of says like, oh, friend of yours? Like, oh, I know that dude. You know, I led that guy here too.
That's interesting.
I
didn't
very
think
conniving, and I feel like he's true blue. Come on.
Yeah, he's true. Come on, Pete. But I'm with you, Tom. When I watched the movie a few months ago in the theater, and I'm watching it same with my 10-year-old brain, and it really was mind bending to be like, oh. Those are, you know, it's not just a bad guy and a bullwhip, and you're like, oh, he has to go there first to actually get the thing, and then, you know, actually draw just the plot. It's tough. I mean, because, well, you're 10.
Yeah.
And also there's bullwhips that you're distracted by and that kind of stuff.
Well, I did the same thing with Star Wars. I was in college at one point, and I was like, oh my gosh, it is a civil war. There's like this government in control, but then there's these other people who are trying to get rid of it. And okay. I got you.
But there's Go ahead,
Go
Joe.
ahead. Oh, I was going to say, getting back to Barranca, I thought maybe it's just a straight up street robbery.
What's he going to rob him for? What's he going to take?
His wallet or something? I don't know.
Oh, why wait until he drags him all the way into the jungle to rob him?
Or why not wait until he has whatever he's looking for?
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Okay.
That actually would have been the move. Satipo, well, I don't want to ruin anything for people who are experiencing this movie 1 minute at a time for the first time along with us. But that would have been the move to, have 3 guys go in and get the thing.
Well, there were. The first guy, remember, ran off when he saw the Toltec.
Or 2 guys ran off. Yeah.
Let's be honest. Those guys were useless.
They had cool hats, though.
They did. They had beautiful hats.
But so I'm going back to what you're saying. If say you're a 10-year-old watching this movie 1 minute at a time for the first time, and it's 1981, for me, the cues that this movie gives would indicate that Indiana Jones is a bad guy. Because you hear the bullwhip, and you see this kind of mean-looking guy turn around, and when he steps out of the light, it plays that music that they always play for. It's like the bum 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 bum.
Yeah, but all of that is surrounding the face of Han Solo, basically. So, going in that it stars Harrison Ford, and that it's,
he can't be a bad guy. Yeah.
But I see what you're saying. Although, Barranca's clearly a bad guy because he's going to shoot a guy in the back. So in sort of movie shorthand, not to be confused with short round, that sort of signals that guy is the bad guy and whoever disarms him is a good guy.
Well, that's true. And he has a bullet hole in his hat.
He does.
I checked
He's been
again.
in scrapes
It's still
before.
there.
Well, is there a possibility that Barranca and Satipo are the good guys, and the victors have written the history, and we're getting a skewed vision of what happens afterwards?
That's entirely possible.
I mean, maybe this should have been the Barranca movie.
Yeah.
It's like a Schrodinger's cat type of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Barranca's still alive as long as you don't open this box.
And he's really...
Which I have another question here. We brought up Forrestal. Mm-hmm. And he says, a friend of yours, and he says, no, a competitor.
Right.
And what I want to know is Forrestal, is he a young budding archaeologist down the street at the local community college? And he was he just happened to get the jump on Indiana Jones and getting that. He's like, no, I'm going to get there first. He's like, what does he mean when he says a competitor? Is he a graduate student?
Well,
he
so
may have been Belloc's Padawan or something.
Well, if we may be going down a rabbit hole here that they've had to go down several times on the Star Wars Minute, which, if you haven't heard it, is a fabulous podcast about
You should
Star
turn this
Wars.
off immediately and go listen to Star Wars Minute. That's true.
But one of their big issues that they constantly deal with is what is canon, what is officially part of the story we're watching.
Yeah.
And if you look at the novelization, I think Forrestal is mentioned as another archaeologist who's, I think, a professor from Yale, or if not Yale, an Ivy League school.
That's all Splinter in the Mind's Eye stuff. I'm not. I'm just talking
So
about
you're saying we're only going to bring into this movie what we can see in this movie.
Yeah.
That's usually my philosophy.
Yeah. I'm talking about the movie.
Yeah.
And then it starts getting really weird, and it's Captain Kirk goes and, I don't know, does stuff somewhere else.
Keep going. I'm with you.
Sounds like a good story.
Yeah.
So, no, we're talking about this movie. He says, and then, he says Forrestal, and he says a friend, and he's like, no, a competitor. All right, that's all we know about him thus far.
And
that he was good.
He knows that he died. He says, here's what he says, right? This is where Forrestal cashed in.
This is where he cashed in.
Yeah.
I was wondering, does that mean died, or does that mean, maybe he found the treasure and he went back and he's rich now?
No, I don't know. I think his tone and what else he's saying makes it sound like, he was good and he didn't make it out of here.
Damn, I never thought about that, though.
Really?
Yeah, but no, I agree with you. this is where he cashed in. You're like, yeah, he punched out and graduated from life.
But how,
right.
how would
like-
he know that?
With honors. Yeah, how does he know that he even got
Well,
there?
because he didn't return. And
Yeah, but he
with
could have,
Rick-
fallen
It
in
could
the
have been,
stream
yeah.
a
He
mile
could have.
back.
He could have hooked up with a nice lady that lives down the river.
Yeah. And the Javitas are near. The poison's still
he
fresh.
took like he took whatever spoils there were, put him behind the glass case in the museum. Oh, great! I'm done now.
I'm done. I'm going to go read a book on the beach.
Yeah. But I think the Forrestal thing is great. To me, it reminds me of the best George Lucas from Star Wars. Like, to me, Forrestal here is like the Clone Wars in the original Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's something that we're tantalized with, and we're not given anything else. And you think about it for years. You're like, who is this guy? Like,
Yeah.
what happened to this guy? Is he cool? What? This would be a great story.
The good
I mean, if we have-
Forrestal will show up in the Disney prequels at some point, I'm sure.
And then he won't be a good story.
He'll
No,
be
yeah,
a-
that'll be
he'll a baby
work.
Greedo.
Yeah, he'll have a dad, and then it'll be terrible. His dad wanted him to play hockey, and he wanted to be an archaeologist.
How come Henry Jones has all the best shovels, Dad? When's my right time?
Well, I mean, it's a great setup. You're like, because
totally.
all we know is, was he a friend? No, he's a competitor. And you're like, okay, so this is a ruthless, contest that these guys are they're running around the world grave robbing.
Yeah.
And and the one guy, he as you say, he cashed in and he was good. And you're like, oh my,
Let's hope Indy's good too.
yeah. At the very least, he's risky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's willing to take a chance. I mean, he already hired a guy who's going to shoot him in the back.
Okay, speaking of taking a chance, I want you guys to close your eyes and picture this. Barranca pulls out the gun. Indy spins around, whips it out of his hand. Barranca runs off holding his hand, wearing his shorts. And Indy steps into the light, and it's Tom Selleck.
And it goes da 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 da.
I think none of us would be here talking about this movie on a podcast.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I disagree. I believe that if Tom Selleck had, as Spielberg and Lucas intended, been Indiana Jones, he would have been great. There, I said it. You know what the problem is? When people roll their eyes and go, Tom Selleck, they're picturing Magnum with a mustache and bushy 80s hair and a Hawaiian shirt with a fedora.
Yes.
But he had filmed, like, I think the pilot of Magnum PI, and that was it. And he would have been fine. He would have been awesome.
He would have been fine.
Maybe great.
He would have been fine.
There's
same
a
as you're like,
universe, there's a quantum reality out there somewhere where we're going, Han Solo is Indiana Jones? Nah, come on.
I'm not sure I want to
it's-
be in that quantum reality. I'm not sure I'm buying what you're selling yet.
I'm just saying, all I want to, I would never get rid of Harrison Ford. I'm just saying that don't be so quick to assume that Tom Selleck would have been a joke.
he wouldn't have been a joke. He would have been like Romancing the Stone or something. You're like, sure, that movie was fine for the time. Billy Ocean had a hit. It's fine.
I argue that you are not using your imagination.
I think Tom Selleck would have been. He would have been good. He maybe would have been like a B plus, but he wouldn't. There wouldn't be people, and the movie probably would have been great because they had good directors and good all that stuff. But I just agree with Pete. We wouldn't be here. Yeah, I wouldn't. You wouldn't be here. There wouldn't be a bunch of people who are running around like, I need to become an archaeologist.
Well, also, if they got Tom Selleck, they probably would have gotten Danny DeVito.
Oh my
Ouch.
God.
Yeah, trump card.
Oh my God.
And I think that would actually be a fantastic movie. I don't think it would be the same movie we're talking about.
Shelley Long would have made a great Marion Ravenwood, and you all know it.
Well, I was reading that they were 3 weeks away when they had Harrison Ford. Yeah, so that's
You can find
dangerously
screen tests.
close.
Yeah.
There's screen tests of him and Sean Young as Marion that you can find on YouTube.
And they considered like Nick Nolte
Meh.
and I feel a little sick. But Nick Nolte, he's a great actor. But
Jerry, don't worry. Harrison Ford actually did play Indiana Jones.
yeah, just
We're living in that
take that.
reality.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
And you know what? I don't think Satipo is like, in the conspiracy. I think we're still living in that reality.
He seemed honestly surprised when Barranca tried to
his
shoot
mouth
him.
Well, and even,
Open in a
Barranca's gone, and he's still surprised. He's like a friend of yours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Barranca looks so betrayed. Like when he turns around and he grabs his wrist and he has this look of, why did you do that? I was just going to shoot that snake off of your shoulder.
Oh, yeah. You don't know.
Well, but if you look like Satipo, when that happens, he's like, damn, did that just happen?
Yeah.
He was like,
Yeah.
what is that? Like, he's just as astonished as any 10-year-old in the theater.
Yeah. Up to this point, I believe that Satipo is reliable and that he wasn't in on it with Barranca.
I'm still not convinced Barranca was in on it.
You know what? I love that you stand your ground. That's great. It's gonna be a long year.
I bet they're not even in South America. I bet they're in Hawaii.
Stop.
Well, now you're just getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Does anybody have anybody else? Anybody else? Does
I have a
anyone
question.
have anything else for this minute?
Yeah, I do have a quick question.
Okay.
How does Indiana Jones know to start filling that bag with sand?
That's a kind of Forrestal thing. You're like, oh, what is he doing? Like, he doesn't make any reference to it, and it pays off later. But you're saying, how does he know how to do it at all?
It's just funny. It's an interesting scene. Like and if you're watching this for the first time, you've got to be wondering, what's he do? Why is he doing that?
I feel like I remember that. I feel like I remember wondering about that the first time I saw it. Like, oh, he's up to something, and he seems to know something. Like, he's not just doing it randomly. What I love is he spins Satipo around, who's got all this stuff on his back, and Satipo's probably like, oh, thank God he's going to get some of this weight off my back, and he takes off this tiny canvas bag. Thanks
He manhandles him. He just flings him aside, around. And
he could just hold out his hand and say, bag. So he's like,
it once again reinforcing the idea that maybe Indiana Jones is the bad guy in this movie.
or at least a jerk.
Well, he's not. I mean, he's scruffy.
You're going to fall back on that a lot. And that's okay.
Yes, of course.
I have no problem with that because he is.
Yeah.
He's scruffy, and that goes a long
and
way.
you're right. And they do play that. They play music that is sinister-ish or momentous. I don't know.
I think
I'm
it's
not
more
saying
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I'm not saying I'll think he's a bad guy maybe by minute 8, but I'm just wondering if I'm watching this for the first time, where do my loyalties lie at this point? Especially if I watch this and I don't know any of the names in the opening credits, and I don't know who Harrison Ford is. I don't know who this guy is. I wonder what I think.
Yeah.
That's a good point. You know what? You're right. You're right. He could be the bad guy.
Maybe Barranca wants to stop this grave robber from stealing this precious artifact.
Oh, he was sent by the folks back home to make sure this gringo doesn't mess with stuff.
Make sure
is Barranca your uncle or something?
Yeah.
Like, leave with the Barranca stuff. All right. Yeah. He clearly, he clicked the gun too loud. Game over, Barranca. If he was the good guy, it would have been silent.
Well, I think that about does it for this minute. We got a lot out of this. I'm proud of us. Tomorrow maybe we'll find out more about Forrestal and everybody else. Join us then. Join us tomorrow for minute 5 of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But before we go, Pete, why don't you tell the nice people where they can find us if they want to vote for Barranca for mayor of Earth or something.
Yes, well, as we know, Indy shot first. Please follow us on Facebook. You can find us at IndianaJonesMinute.com. You can find us on Twitter, on Instagram. And will one of your hosts cash in after this minute? You'll have to tune in tomorrow to find out on the Indiana Jones Minute.
Indiana Jones Minute. Jones!
Jones!
You want to yell Jones, Jerry?
Jones!